Hi and welcome to my kitchen table. Contrary to popular opinion, I don't actually have a war games room, I don't have a studio, and I don't sadly live in a castle yet. So the vast majority of my war games photos are taken on my kitchen table, which is the kind of best lit space in the house. Today I'll be doing a really quick tour of how I do it and showing you how my trusty bottle of diet lemonade, or really any bottle hanging around the kitchen, can stop my miniature world falling in on my little figures. I've got reasonable light, couple of daylight lamps, and then I've got classic John Hodgson photography set up, backdrop behind, miniature sat on a plinth, so one of my war games hills basically, and then I'm using both my phone and also my bridge camera on a tripod to try and get the best shots I can. Over here I've got my collection of John Hodgson backdrops. So I sometimes use my own photo backdrops as well from pictures that I've taken and printed, but I really like John's work. It's no surprise, frankly. It is the perfect complement for what I do, trying to create these mythic miniature worlds, and it's incredibly handy in the backdrop books. I've got an A4 backdrop book here, but in the recent Kickstarter, I also went in and bought the A3 ones. I found the bound books to be a little bit floppy for doing photography with, so I bought some of these cheap A3 display wallets from the range and have basically taken out the backdrops and put them into here. And when I need them for photography, I've just got a piece of board. I've cut A3 size, a couple of bulldog clips, and there's my backdrop ready to use in the photograph. This is my trusty old Fujipix S5700 bridge camera on one of these Gorilla tripods that I find really useful to push up and down to try and get the right angle to take the photos. I don't claim to be the greatest photographer. I'm working with pretty standard settings here. Again, the John Hodgson backdrop books have got some useful advice in the back, but I've got an ISO number of 100 and aperture of f3.5, which is fine for this really close-up shot. And I'm using the timer on this so that it takes the shot after 10 seconds. So all ready to grab a shot of some more Celts. So here we can see them precariously balanced. The backdrop you can see is leaning in very slightly. I've got it leaning on a lemonade and a PVA bottle. That just helps to cut down the glare. Because the printed backdrops have got a satin finish, it just avoids glare on the screen. And as you can pull down, you can see everything blends in a bit better with the plinth. Now, coming down to the camera, I'm all zoomed in, and I'm going to do it on a 10-second timer just to completely reduce any camera shake for what's going on here. So everyone's in position over there. You can see on the picture, lovely, there we go. So we've got a nice shot. You can see on the picture that we have, there's a bit of chipping on the plinth over there. You can see the bottle on the left-hand side, but I'll crop those out once I edit the picture. The lights I've got here are just a pair of craft lamps, basically, that they do double duty as my hobby lamps, but this one's really, really useful because you can angle it and twist it. And as you can see, that can help you to avoid areas of glare on the backdrop as well. This one's an overhead one. It's quite handy, but it does have different settings, so you can set it to different levels of light. The plinth I've got here, as I've said, is just a piece of my standard war games scenery. It's a piece of foam with bits of cork bark cut round and fixed on. This plinth works really well, obviously despite the damage, which I'm going to make sure I don't photograph today or crop out, but doing things like this, having a slightly raised lip on the plinth that you make, putting on some of these big tufts. These are Gamer's Grass 12mm tufts that I buy from North Star, and also having a few of these loose while you're photographing can be really helpful to blend the bases in. I mean, I don't pretend that my stuff is at a diorama. You know, it is war game figures on a nice photographic setting, but sometimes these are really helpful just to distract from the edge of the base. With the backdrops, you don't always need extra terrain, but let's move you here. But I do have a number of little trees and things on nice scenic bases that I can just drop in. Rocks as well. These are so important for creating my environment. This is a commercially bought tree that I've based up. This one is just made out of pieces of pine bark, and they can really help to blend in the backdrop. One thing you have to be really careful with though with these is making sure, as you can see there, that you don't suddenly get shadows from the backdrop. There's quite an art to just arranging everything to avoid the backdrop and shadows. And generally the trick is to leave a little bit of a distance, have a gap of a few inches so that it's not back projecting just straight onto your background. You can see here the effect of having a slightly raised edge on the plinth that I'm taking the photo on. If I photograph our friend Slough just here, we get to see his base, which is fine. I don't mind seeing bases in pictures, but if I want to hide that, if I bring him forward to the edge over there and then take the photograph like so, the base pretty much disappears. And that can be a great effect to have sometimes. I'm also a big fan of getting down on quite a low angle with the photographs. So this kind of thing I particularly like. One thing that's caught me out quite a bit recently is when I've recently based a figure up is sometimes having little bits of static grass stuck to the model if I'm photographing a day or two later. So really good to just have a soft brush handy just to check that, to brush those bits of flock off before you take the shot and get annoyed when you find it a week later. Thanks very much for watching. I hope that was an interesting whistle-stop tour of the kitchen table and may have given you some ideas on how you can get photographs of your miniatures. As cheesy as it is to say it, if you enjoyed it and want to see me making a few more videos like this, please do hit like and subscribe so I can build Mogsymakes up. And thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you again soon.